Hi everyone, in this video I'm going to show you some techniques or nodes that I really like using in ComfyUI, and they really take it to the next level. They make the work with ComfyUI much more flexible and much more dynamic, and it allows the variation of your generations to be much more easily managed. And let's not waste any more words and go right ahead. So as always, we're going to start with the default layout just by clicking here the load default. And what I am going to do now is select the Stable Diffusion XL base model, and on the width we're going to change this to 1024 by 1024, which is the native or the default size of the Stable Diffusion XL model. And in here I'm going to write down a simple prompt that will be a photo portrait of a beautiful cat. And here on the steps we're going to do 14 steps, which is enough for our purpose, 6.5 on the CFG, and I'm going to leave it on Euler and normal. Right here we have the save image node, which basically, once I click the Q prompt, it automatically saves the results into the ComfyUI's output folders. And what we're going to do now, which is the first thing that I want to talk about, is click the extra options checkbox. And once I click it, I have two options here. The first one is batch count and the second one is auto queue. So we'll start with the batch count. What the batch count allows you to do is simply replace the need to press several times on the Q prompt button. So let's say that I want to create 10 variations of this photo portrait of this beautiful cat. Instead of clicking 10 times on the Q prompt, I can simply say, do a batch of 10 generations and click on the Q prompt. And once I will click the Q prompt, you will see that the Q size becomes large. It will reach to 10, and in the output folder I will see all the images that were generated in this run. What I'm going to do here is change the file name prefix to cat. This way all the files that are saved into the output folder will have the cat prefix in their file name. And let's just click the Q prompt, and then we'll be back once it's done running for a few minutes. So you can see the queue size is now at 10 and the entire process will start running. We'll be back once it is done. And you can see I have here the last image that was generated in the batch of 10 runs. But if I'll go here to the view history, you can see here all the history of the 10 generations that were running. If I'll click load of any of them, it will simply load the seed number and the final output image that was generated. So this is one way to look at it. The second way is to simply go to the ComfyUI output folder, which is on the root folder. Then I'm going to go to ComfyUI once again, and in there I will have a folder called output. Once I'll go inside this folder, you will see all the 10 images that were generated during the last batch run that created, and you can see that indeed it generated the cat prefix for each file name. So this way, if I need some variation, instead of having to click manually, let's say that I want to create now 100 variations, instead of clicking 100 times, I can simply run it for a batch of 100, go to a cup of coffee and take a quick shower maybe, and once I'm back, I have all the 100 images waiting for me to continue working. For our next feature, we're going to start once again with the load default, but this time instead of choosing the Stable Diffusion XL model, we're going to choose the lighting 2 steps. And here we're going to make it also 1024 by 1024 and photo portrait of US cat. And here, instead of 20 steps, we're going to go with 4. Now, I know it's called the lighting 2 steps, but 2 steps are not really giving us the proper results. 4 steps gives us a bit more details that we can actually use that image. In the CFG, when we're dealing with fast models, it's usually a very low CFG, so we're going to go with 1.1. We're going to leave it at Euler and normal. And for our example, we're going to make it on a fixed control after generate, because we don't want the seed number to keep changing every time we run it. And the reason we do it is because we're going to use here the auto queue, and the auto queue simply keeps running and running and running, and we'll see how it happens. Another thing that is usually very smart to do when you're dealing with the auto cue is to delete the save image and change it to preview. And the reason is because it keeps running and it saves image every time it runs prompt, and it can pretty quickly clutter your computer with tons of images. So I usually do a preview image, and once I get to the results that I want, I use the either save it manual, or only then I add save image node. And when we check box the auto cue, we'll have two options. The first one is instant, and the second one is change. What instant does, it means that it will simply keep running non-stop. Every time it completes a generation, it starts another one again. This is nice if you want to let it run indefinite number of times. For example, I want a number of variations of this photo, and I just want it to keep running until I see something that I like. What I usually use is the change, and the change only runs when it realizes that there's been a change in the workflow, either a manual change or an automatic change. This is the reason why we changed the random seed to a fixed seed, because each time a generation is completed, the random seed changes the seed number, and this would have caused the auto cue to see a change in the interface and run it again, and we don't want to do it. Let's just give it the first run, and then you will see how it comes into action when you create changes in the interface. So let's give it the initial run, and now it's on the auto cue, meaning that every small change that I'm going to do on the interface will automatically start running the flow. So if, for example, now instead of 4 steps I want to do 5, it's enough for me to change the number of steps, and immediately sampler will start running once again. This way I can simply start playing with the prompt or with the number of steps and things like that. So let's leave it at 5 steps. It seems to give us nice results. And now we can simply play with the results. Instead of cat, I want a dog. We can add words, and it gives you a very intuitive and dynamic way of generating prompts. And this way, every change you make to the prompt directly impacts the generation, and that includes everything in the workflow. So even if I now want to change the size, once I click enter, it will start running again. I hope you can see the power of this feature. It is especially useful when you're dealing with ControlNet. You can plug in custom image into the workflow, and every change you make to the image will immediately render the new image based on that change. It's very nice. The next thing I want to go over with you, the next thing we're going to go over is something very efficient when it comes to generating a mass of generations, or if you have several options and you want to test them all out. It's something similar to creating a grid, but it works a bit different, and it's called dynamic prompts. In order to use this node, we will have to install a custom node. It's rather simple. Just click the manager and install custom nodes, and in the table that shows, just simply type dynamic prompts, and there you have this dynamic prompts custom nodes. You need to click the install. Once you click the install, it will take a few seconds to install this custom node. Once it is done, it will ask you to restart the ComfyUI interface. Clicking this restart button will restart the ComfyUI interface and reload all the required nodes. Now, besides installing the custom node for the dynamic prompts, another custom node that I like installing when using the dynamic prompts is called show text, or it actually called custom scripts, but it includes a node that's called show text, and I use it in order to see the dynamic prompts output. On the search, we'll simply type show text and we'll do the search, and here there is this ComfyUI custom scripts. We'll install this custom node as well, and it will allow us to show a text. You can see here all the kind of nodes that it provides, and here we have the show text node that allows us to see the text that the dynamic prompts nodes will be generating. Once again, let's click on the restart and wait for it to restart the interface. So now, after we have these two nodes, now let's see how we can use all the custom nodes that we've just installed. And we'll start by selecting on the checkpoint. I'm going to select the two-step lighting just so it will run faster and to save time. I'm not going to use the text box inside the clip text encode because I want the dynamic prompts node to generate the text for for me. And the way to do it, let's move it here. The way to do it is to add here something called combinatorial prompts. So this is one of the nodes that the dynamic prompts provide. There are several nodes they provide. They all work pretty much in the same way, but the results are a bit different. I will put the link to this custom node in the description, and there you have a pretty detailed information how you can use each one of the nodes. But what I want to go over with you is on the overall way to use it. It all works kind of the same with minor differences. So once we put the combinatorial prompt, we can put a regular prompt like that. For example, a portrait photo, beautiful cat, like we did before. But this time we want the word cat to be replaced with different words each time we run the generation. So I will do curly brackets, and here I can do cat, enter a pipe and say dog, pipe, bird, pipe, mouse, pipe, and we'll take shark, for example. And this way it will generate a different prompt each time I click the cube. And now comes into play the custom node that we just installed that can allow us to show a text. And here I can simply drag the output of the string and add the show text node. This will actually show me the text that this combinatorial prompts generated. Now I want to connect this prompt into this text section. And the way to do it is rather simple. It works the same for all the nodes on ComfyUI. I can simply right click on the title of the node, and here on the bottom I have convert text to input. If I'll do it here on the empty latent image, for example, you will see that I have convert width to input, convert height to input, and so on and so forth. Basically it means that I can take each parameter here and convert it into an input where I can now connect my own custom node. So we will right click, do convert text to input, and now you see that instead of a built-in text area I have this text input, and now I can simply drag the output of the combinatorial prompt string into the text, and this is what the clip text encode will receive as text input. Now let's change the number of steps to 4, for example. We'll do a 1.1 CFG. Once again, that's because we're using the lighting the table. And here let's change the size to something about 760. You know what, we'll leave it at 512 and we'll do it by 768, and just to give it a portrait look. And here on the save image I will add a prefix called portrait, and this will allow me to later on the output see all the files that were generated. Let's click the extra options and do a batch of 5. And the reason I'm doing a batch of 5 is because I have 5 options here in my prompt. So each time it runs a prompt, it will use the respective word from this generation. Let's click the Q prompt and see what happens. So now you can see here in the text that it created a portrait photo of a beautiful cat, and you can see here that we have a beautiful cat. And now on the next run, it generated a portrait photo of a dog. So it changed it automatically to a dog, and then a bird, and a mouse, and a shark. It is done running everything, and you can see it here on this output panel. You can see that we have all the images. I don't really like using this panel. I think it takes too much space. So I'm just going to click the X, and we will open the output folder. And here, besides the 10 cats that we did on the previous technique, you can see that we have 5 images that were generated based on this dynamic prompt. So we have the beautiful cat, which is indeed beautiful if you ask me. We have this beautiful dog, this bird, the mouse, and finally the shark. So I guess you can see how powerful this thing can be. But what happens if you have a list of, for example, 50 words and you don't really want to type this entire prompt? What you can do quite easily is use a template file. Now, in order to use a template file, we will simply open a notepad or any text editor, and we will create a file where each prompt or each word that we want to be changed is separated by a new line. So in this example, we will do horse, and let's do a rhino. Let's do a snake, a snail, a rat, a fish, spider, worm, tiger, and a lamb. Now we have 10 animals. We're going to save the file, and in order to use it, we need to save it into the ComfyUI custom nodes section. So we'll go to the ComfyUI root, ComfyUI. Here you will have the custom nodes, and here you will have the dynamic prompts. Here we can go to the wildcards, and there we will simply save the file in a name, preferably without using spaces or special characters. I usually use lowercase English characters, and that does the trick. So we will call it animals. And now the way to use it inside the prompt is very simple. We'll go here, and instead of doing the curly brackets, we will do underscore underscore, the name of the file, and 2 underscores one more time. So it looks like that. Do note that sometimes you have to reload the interface for it to load the file, and we can do a test to see if it caught the file. We will just remove the extra options and click Q prompt once, and you'll see here that it actually managed to load the file, but it recognized the word fish. And if we look into the file, we see that the first word is horse. Well, the thing is that dynamic prompts, when it loads a file, it uses the words or the wildcards in the alphabet order, meaning that it will sort the words from A to Z, and this will be the order of the words every time you click the Q prompt and every time you reset the file. What I usually do, I open it up in Excel or something similar to, or Google Sheet or something like that, and I simply sort the words, and that way I can really know which word will come first. But for our example, it doesn't really matter. Let it just run and see if we have all the animals that we wanted. Now note that I clicked the Q prompt once and it did the fish. If I click Q prompt once again, it will change it into the horse. And I had a total of 10 animals, so I will simply add a batch count 8 in order for it to finish the entire cycle, and we will click Q prompt. The thing that will happen if I will click Q prompt once again, it will start from scratch and it will do the loop and start with the fish once more. Done running, let's open up the output folder and see what we got. And you can see that after the shark that we last had, we have the fish, the horse, the lamb, the rat, the rhinoceros, the snail, the snake. I really like the snake photo, the spider, the tiger, and the worm, which is kind of a weird worm, but nevertheless, it is wormish. Well, I gotta say that I really like these images. I really like the result of these images, and I hope you understand what a useful tool these dynamic prompts can be. And another way, something that I usually do, I do something like that. I will open up Gemini, and we will ask Gemini to generate 10 prompts for text to image models.
Make them one paragraph each. Make them concise and descriptive. Each prompt should present a different scientific scenario.
And let's see what Gemini will generate. And you can see that it generated 10 prompts that I can simply copy, and instead of running them one by one, I can just create a file this time and put all these prompts in this file, and I will simply save the file. Let's call it Gemini for example, and click the save. And now if I'll go back to the ComfyUI, in here, instead of typing anything in the prompt, I will simply delete the entire prompt and simply put the file name itself, once again with a double underscore before and after the file's name. And now if I'll click the Q prompt with a batch of 10, because we have 10 rows, each time it will generate it doesn't work. Okay, so if you see that it doesn't work, it means that it didn't manage to load the file correctly. We will simply clear the queue and cancel the run, and usually you can either restart the interface or sometimes even just refresh the page. Let's see if it was able to do it. Okay, so it didn't. So what we're going to do is simply restart the interface, and we can do it simply by going to the command line here and click Ctrl+C several times until it breaks the code. And once it is done, we will simply run the ComfyUI once again. Do note that it reloads everything, but it will save the last position or the last state that your interface was in. And here we will now click the extra options once again. We will do a 10 and click the Q prompt, and you can see this time that it managed to load the correct prompts from the Gemini file that we just created. Let's let it run and see the results that we just got. Once it is done running, let's go to our output folder and see what we got. And you can see that we got 10 beautiful images. I accidentally left it with a prefix portrait, but it doesn't really matter. And you see that we got 10 beautiful images just like that, very fast. And if we like something, we can simply take it and continue working on it from there. And once again, if there is something that you really liked and you want to see, you can go to the view history here and click the load, and it will automatically load the entire flow that you were just running, and you can continue using it from there. The last node that I want to show you in this video is a custom node called Save Extended. And once again, we will go to the manager, and here we will click the install custom node, and we will type save and search, and here down you will find the save image extended for ComfyUI. This allows you to have some additional features or additional settings when it comes to saving images. So once again, let's just click the install, let us install it for a few moments, and we'll be back once it is done. And once it is done reloading, we can simply double click and type save image, and you'll see here the custom node called save image extended, and you can see it gives you a lot of information that you can keep with your file name. And we'll simply drag the image through here, and let's give it a run. Do note that you can actually create subfolders here. You can save the file into a specific folders. So let's call it Gemini, for example. Let's once again click the Q prompt and see what happens once it is done running. And in the output folder this time, it created a folder with the name of the model, because you can see here that it is set to save the CKPT, which is the checkpoint file name, into a subfolder. So here you will have the Gemini, which is the custom name that we gave, and inside it we will have the name of the file that was just generated, and it is also set to save the sampler name, the scheduler, the CFG, and the steps. So if we look at the name of the image, you will see that you have all this information directly on the image file name. It is very good to use this extended node, especially if you run something like 100 prompts in a template file and you want to have a folder with 10 prompts and things like that. And the way to do, once again, let's say that I have a file with 50 names, you can actually use the combinatorial prompt also with these fields. It works the same. I can simply right click, and here I can convert the folder name prefix, for example, to input, and instead of typing it manually, I can take it from the combinatorial prompt. I can actually create another file that holds the names of the folders that I want to generate, and so on. There are tons of options. Not going to go over with you on all of them because it's quite endless, but I really hope you liked all those custom nodes that we used here. So that's about it. I really hope you liked these techniques or custom nodes that I've just shown you. I'm going to do several videos like that introduce several concepts or techniques or methods that can really help using ComfyUI in a more managed way or a more flexible and dynamic way. If you like the video, please subscribe and like, and I will see you on the next video. Bye.